The hotel I worked at was small, only 53 rooms in the entire place. It's located next to downtown in a town in central Minnesota. As a night audit, you worked by yourself, with the shift being from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. You don't get many people checking into the hotel at night, 1 to 3 at the most. The first duty as the night audit was to lock the doors so only guests could get in with their key. There is also a phone on the wall next to the main entrance in case someone arrives after the doors are locked, or somebody orders a pizza or something. There is a front door in the lobby, a back door in the lobby, and 2 side doors. I proceeded to lock all of the doors and head into the back room behind the front desk to do laundry. As there is no staff on hand to do laundry, another task of the night audit is to finish any remaining laundry that wasn't finished during the day. There is a cordless phone you can bring with you when going into the back or around the other parts of the hotel. We had no more scheduled check-ins that night, but there was a couple of rooms available. I heard somebody try and open the front door, was unsuccessful, and left. Moments later, the phone rang. And when I answered, the other person did not talk right away. I walked up to the front desk, and the other person finally started talking. They went on to say they were a former cop, and something about having court in the morning, and that if they weren't let in, they were going to come in and shoot me, and that they were circling the hotel. There are windows that look out to the front of the hotel that is visible from the computer I had walked to during the phone call. I told them I was sorry that we didn't have any rooms available, and that they hung up before I even finished my sentence. I looked out the window, and there was a person standing across the street, staring back at me with the phone in their hand. At this point, I'm really freaking out, and I go to all the doors to double check that they are all locked. It was a good thing I checked, because one of the side doors had been propped open with a doorstop. Obviously, I shut the door and proceeded to go to a conference room with sight of where the person was standing. I kept the lights off and peeked through the blinds, but the person was gone. I was pretty freaked out the rest of the night, because there are windows pretty much everywhere in this hotel. So if this person was watching me, they would be able to all night if they pleased. So, person who threatened to shoot me while I was working, let's not meet. For the story, I would like to address that I am from northern Norway. I am also a female. When I was younger, I used to do speed skating, which is a form of ice skating, where you practice to become as fast as possible. I had 2 coaches. They are both pretty old. They are usually competitions at different locations where you get to compete with someone else. I had been doing ice skating for about a year at the time, and we had been traveling a lot throughout the northern parts of Norway. And we had actually traveled to Russia as well for a competition. We once traveled to a small peninsula, which is located in the middle of nowhere. The little town contained about 2,000 people and had one single hotel. It took about 5 hours to drive to this little town from my hometown. When we finally arrived, we settled in the hotel we had booked. For some reason, they had booked 2 rooms, one for them and one for me to be alone. At the time, all the others who used to practice ice skating with me had quit, or was not able or allowed to travel so far. At first, having a hotel room for 2 for myself felt great. I had privacy and free time to do whatever I wanted. While I was at competitions and waiting for my turn to compete, I made friends with a girl who we will call Marie. Marie was sweet and kind, and she made the weekend I was spending in that town a little bit more fun. We were both the same age. We met later on the same day I met her and hung out at her school where there was an arrangement. I figured it would be a good idea to bring her to the hotel and hang out. Honestly, it was a great idea. We watched a movie and ate some snacks and had fun. Then at some point it was time for her to leave. It was pretty late, around midnight when she left. I was a very decent kid, so I followed her downstairs to the lobby to say goodbye. I was also intending on buying a bottle of soda while I was downstairs. When she had left, I went to buy the soda at the counter that was close to the exit. There was a man standing behind the counter. He had an accent, so I figured he had moved to Norway from another country recently. He seemed very interested in me and asked what I was doing in the lobby at such a late time. I told him I wanted to get a soda and asked for the price per bottle, as there was no price tag near. He told me that one bottle is about 5 USD. I decided that I would not pay that much for a small bottle of soda and said that I would be heading upstairs. The guy instantly started begging me to stay downstairs and talk to him. This scared me a little, but I felt as if I had to stay. He asked a lot of questions. He wanted my name, where I was from, and if my parents were here. Also, who I'm with. I answered honestly to all of those, even though I felt threatened and unsafe. I knew not to trust strangers, but I have always had a thing for being nice to everyone. I eventually say I'm tired, and will go upstairs to catch some sleep. He tried to make me stay longer, but I decided to leave anyways. A few moments later, before I had gone to sleep, I heard someone knocking on my door. I thought to myself that it might as well be one of my coaches who needed something from me. So I went to open the door. It was not either of them, it was the guy from before. He was holding a lighter and in a very broken accent said that he was looking for someone who lost his lighter. I said it's not my lighter and was about to shut the door when he put his foot between the door and the wall on my side and asked to come in. I was scared as hell and started pushing on the door. I remember very little about this part, but I can make out that I somehow managed to close the door and lock it. I immediately made a call to my mother, who called my coaches to tell them about the incident. I never saw him again after that. When we got home, my mother made a call to the hotel manager and complained about the incident. The manager said that he will not charge the guy for what he did, and that he will not face any consequences, even though my mom kept telling him what the guy's intentions likely was. I know it sounds ridiculous, but the guy probably still works there to this day. I'm so confused about that whole incident, and so incredibly happy that whatever I did stopped him from getting in and going through with his terrible intentions. It was my 21st birthday, so 3 of my best girlfriends and I celebrated with a trip to NYC. To give you background, 2 of my friends, Lena and Molly, didn't get along that well. The third was, and is my best friend to this day, Ellie. My birthday is in December, so it was excruciatingly cold at the time of the trip. We were all staying in the same hotel room. One night, I was pretty tired and ended up going back to the hotel a bit earlier. I didn't want to ruin my friends' time, and I was cool with them staying out later and going to a club. I went home to call my then boyfriend at the time and just relax. I also wanted to go back to the hotel because I was honestly emotionally drained. Throughout the day, Lena and Molly had been arguing on and off. Not really about anything huge, but just nitpicking because they presumably had very opposite personalities. I don't like drama, and being caught in the middle was getting annoying, so I really wanted to be by myself. So, I'm back at the hotel, talking to my then boyfriend at the time. 20 minutes in, I get a second call coming from Molly. I answer and she's crying. She was always pretty dramatic, but of course, I was concerned. Conversation went something like this. Lena is so awful. I'm coming back to the hotel to hang with you. Are you okay? What happened? We got into a fight in the cab, and I just don't want to deal with her. I'm heading back now. Okay, be safe. When will you be here? In like 10 minutes. I'm getting in the cab now. Okay, see you soon. We can talk when you get here. I hang up the phone with my boyfriend and tell him I'm going to hang out with her. She comes in a few minutes later and tells me about their fight. I can't even really remember what they fought about, most likely because it was petty and stupid. But we talked for a bit, and I told her we should just try to get some rest. It had been a long day, and I was over all the drama of that day, so we did. When Ellie and Lena came back to the hotel about an hour later, Lena was pissed drunk. She came in stumbling, yelling obscenities at Molly that I couldn't make out. Molly said something calmly, but to oppose her, Lena got really mad and kicked my suitcase really hard into the wall. This obviously pissed me off. It's one thing to be upset, but to try to damage other people's belongings is definitely not okay. I had had enough and wanted to leave. One of my other best friends, who wasn't able to come, had a sister who lived in Queens. Her family is like my family, so I texted her telling her the situation and asked if I could come stay with her for the night. She said of course, so I snatched my suitcase and headed towards the elevator. It was slow, so I was waiting there for a few minutes. Moments later, Molly came bursting out of the room. "I'm coming with you." "No, I want to be alone." "I'm sorry we've ruined your birthday. I want to come with you. I don't want to be around Lena right now." "Fine, whatever." The elevator opens and we head to the hotel lobby. It was around 2 a.m. at this time, and given that New York City is always bustling, I was surprised to see that there were virtually no hotel guests in the lobby. There was one man at the front desk, and then another hotel staff member standing around. It was really cold outside, so I wanted someone to call a cab for me. I asked the front desk if he could have someone do it for me, and he called the other man over and asked. The other man was pretty tall, maybe 6 feet at least, not overweight but stockier for sure. He had a very short buzzed haircut and the most piercing blue eyes, but not the kind that are kind. They seemed completely off, and I remember thinking that before he even opened his mouth to speak to me. "Where are you going?" He asked in what was probably a Russian accent. Even his voice seemed cold, like it lacked any warmth or friendliness. I kind of choked on my words. We're going to Queens." He paused. He moved in closer to me and got his face up in mine. I'm about 5'4", so he was definitely bending over a bit to get eerily close to me. To put into perspective how close he was, we could have easily kissed if he moved about an inch closer. Then he asked, "Is it just you two? Alone?" I said, yes, as I tried to move my body backwards a bit to create some distance. He literally stared into my eyes for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 5 seconds. Then he just smiled. I remember feeling so creeped out and just kind of frozen. In my gut, I knew something was off. I looked at my friend, who was obviously uncomfortable as well. It was like she was trying to tell me with her eyes that this man gave her the creeps too. Finally, he backed away from me. "Stay right there." He then whipped out his phone and called someone. He was speaking Russian, so I don't know what he said. The whole time his eyes stayed on me, and my friend and I remember just feeling paralyzed. I was thinking, do we just run? I kept looking back at the glass doors of the hotel entrance, hoping that by a miracle, a cab would drive by so that we could leave. He got off the phone after about a minute, and all he said was, "Someone's coming." A few minutes later, another man entered the hotel. He wasn't dressed like a hotel staff member at all, which was my biggest red flag. Then he started speaking with the man who called in Russian. They kept nodding while speaking to each other, while looking back at each other and then at my friend and me. The man with the creepy eyes looked at us and said, "He will take you where you need to go." "What?" "Go with him, he will take you." Just then, I kid you not, I look back at the doors and see a cab slowly inching up our street in traffic. "Oh, it's okay. I see a cab right there. We're just going to take that. Thanks." I yelled as I grabbed Molly's hand and began running out of the hotel to get in the cab. As soon as we got in the cab, we both looked at each other and expressed our fear for what had just happened. We both were really scared of the man and agreed that we thought something was incredibly off about the men and the encounter. The first thing that came to my mind was that maybe they were a part of a human trafficking ring. When I think back to that night, I always thank God for that cab. it came at just the right time. I'll never know for sure what that man's intentions were. Since then, I've lived in New York, and I've visited again many times, and no hotel staff member has ever offered to personally drive me somewhere. I don't know what would have happened had we gone with that man, but I have a feeling it would have been not where we wanted to go. Creepy Russian men at my hotel. Let's not meet. My fiance Will and I stayed in upstate New York a couple of weeks ago for a mini getaway. The hotel was pretty dingy, but the price was right, and they had smoking rooms. One night we had gotten back from dinner around 11 p.m. when Will decided he wanted a soda. The hotel didn't have any elevators, so we started the trek to the lower level vending machines. Once we got to the first floor, we started walking down this long hallway. Thank The Shining, when I see an open hotel room door. While passing, I glance inside and see an older woman standing in the middle of the dark room, pulling at her hair with her fist with a huge smile on her face. I instantly start having a mini panic attack. I look to Will, and he obviously hadn't seen this deranged woman. Will says, "I think we're walking the wrong way. Let's turn around." We turn around and walk back by her room, but I don't look inside. We keep walking down this insanely long hallway, and when we're far enough down, I whisper, "Baby, there's something going on in one of those rooms. Something's not right." He stops walking to ask me about it when we see a sign for the vending machines, and they're back by that same room. We turn to walk back down the hallway when we see an arm sticking out from that woman's room and waving around slowly. Not waving hello exactly, just very slowly, wobbling back and forth. Then her door slams shut and we hear all the locks click. I start freaking out more and saying I don't want to go back there, but Will says the room is next to the lobby and an attendant is there, so if anything happens we can just run to the desk. We walk back by the room and make it to the vending machines, in a little closet-type room right off the lobby. I start putting change in the machine, and of course I only have nickels and dimes, so it's taking me forever. All of a sudden, I get that feeling that someone is staring at me. I turn to the doorway, and the woman is standing there with this huge smile on her face, just staring at us. What really creeped me out is that we had to walk through 3 heavy doors to get to this room, which means she had purposely, silently snuck through. Will and I just freeze and stare straight ahead, pretending like we don't see her. I've stopped putting change in the machine at this point and just look like a statue. Then she starts giggling, a high-pitched little girl giggle. Out of the corner of my eye, I see her put her hands over her mouth like a schoolgirl. I start silently crying. I'm frozen to the spot just listening to this old crazy lady giggling like a 5-year-old while staring at me. Then she just turned around and walked away. Will grabs the soda and we book it out of there. We ran all the way back down the long hallway, up 4 flights of stairs and into our room while looking over our shoulders the entire time. I propped a chair under the door and couldn't sleep the entire night. I didn't see the woman the next morning. So, deranged woman in a New York hotel, please, let's never meet again.